All right, well, thank you guys so much for being here. What if I told you that the mainframe industry and neurodiversity exist in a parallel universe? First, you might want to know what neurodiversity is. Simply said, it is the difference between each one of our brains, like fingerprints. No two are alike. And then within this diversity, there's also divergency, thus the term neurodivergent, which includes autism, ADHD, anxiety, dyslexia, and other brain-based differences. I mean, let's go back to our childhood for a moment. I think that most of us are around the same generation, and we grew up in a world where autism looked very different than it does today, where it was whispered quietly in the shadows the same way that cancer might be, where ADHD meant that your kids were bouncing off the walls or climbing the ceilings, and your best hope is that they might grow up and join the circus. We were taught to fit in and to belong, and if we didn't, that meant that we probably wouldn't have a successful or meaningful life. So we didn't talk much about it, and we certainly didn't see ourselves in those descriptions. I grew up in a world where I gravitated towards the geeks and the freaks, and I was singled out by the school counselors for not having friends. I was the girl that sat alone in the library at lunchtime because books were better than bullies, and real friends were really hard to come by. I had social anxiety, and I never felt like I fit in, but I also consistently had questions and answers that nobody else did. I was smart in a different way. Fast forward to 40 years from there, and here I am, actively leading social change for the neurodivergent population. My job lets me go to talk to rooms full of my favorite types of people, like you guys. The ones who don't quite fit in, who solve problems in different ways, and aren't afraid to be themselves. I see you. I am you. Who knew that life would lead me here? It's like coming full circle. While the mainframe industry is new to me, neurodivergency is not. I've spent most of my life getting to know this population, but I didn't realize that I was a part of it until a couple of years ago when my daughter was diagnosed with autism. I've been a speech-language pathologist for over 20 years, but I only began working with the mainframe industry recently when I moderated a panel for MSCS on diversity you cannot see. In August, I got to meet some of you at the conference in Columbus at the SHARE conference. At heart, I'm still that girl in the corner, so I observed more than I talked, and I learned through my observations who you guys are as a group. A new mainframe friend of mine described your community as a group of fierce badasses who are consistently defending your industry against attack. Armored and ready for battle, you are a hardy bunch of individuals coming together for a common purpose and working as hard as heck, doing what you love. But change needs to happen. Your industry is at a crossroads, and it needs better structures to move into the modern age. How do you move forward yet remain intact? What's needed? What pieces of information do you already have that you can move forward with? Some of you say there's not enough new talent coming in, or that you're not accurately valued for the work that you do. Others feel like quiet quitting is alive and well, or that you're being forced to be something you're not by adopting the cloud structure. That really struck a chord with me. You see, I think neurodivergency is in precisely the same predicament. Like the mainframe industry, neurodivergent minds are critical to everyday society, but we're often hidden, left out, not fully appreciated or even understood. We're always ready for attack. We're prepared to defend ourselves, and yet we still come together for a common purpose. We're told to be something that we're not because that's what society wants. And sometimes we just shut down and try to make it through the day. Our version of quiet quitting is often called autistic burnout. And, like quiet quitting, it happens when we're overloaded, under-challenged, or neglected. In both circumstances, there's a younger generation coming in, driving the change that gets to happen. And your industry is starting to support this, as we heard with the mentorship programs, right? Did you know that an estimated 40% of people are neurodivergent? That means that whether you guys know it or not, nearly half of us have ADHD, are autistic, have anxiety, or are dyslexic. And that's just an estimate. I would beg to differ that all of our brains are neurodivergent. I mean, at what point do we look at the web of differences and say, you're neurodivergent, you're neurotypical? Each of our brains diverge from another one. We are each neuro-unique. The description of our cognitive spectrum is so limited, it causes confusion. But I digress. This idea of neurodivergency as a mainframe, there are so many parallels. I'm going to highlight a few of them. First, we have it going on. Both mainframes and neurodivergence are the backbone of so much. The way a mainframe holds information, the way a neurodivergent brain holds information, it's a competitive advantage. A mainframe computer does something that no other structure can. Same with neurodivergent thinkers. We've been shown to be more innovative, improve team processes, and also save time. No two of us look at the same problem in the same way. Our unique qualities help to strengthen the workplace. You want us on our team. You want us on your team, and we offer an excellent return on investment. Number two, like the mainframe, society doesn't fully understand or value us. Our way of communicating might be misunderstood, we might need a translator, or we might take some practice to explain our inner workings. 85% of people who are autistic are unemployed. 30 to 40% of people who are neurodivergent are unemployed. That's significant. Like the mainframe, we need modernization. We get to successfully exist in this world. But what we think that might look like could be very different than what an outsider thinks. Third, as a result of our various attacks, both the mainframe and neurodivergence keep on layering on new code. New fixes to pull ourselves into this modern world. In the world of neurodivergency, this is called masking, and it can be very difficult and dangerous. Same with layering code, right? And in this layering, we do things like build firewalls, which in my language would be called defense mechanisms. We do it so that we can stay secure, solid, protected. But underneath, we're here, hoping that we don't have to give up what we are in order to make it in the world. So how do we do this without compromising ourselves, our mainframe, or our integrity? Both the mainframe and neurodivergence are faced with things that feel inauthentic to what we are. For mainframe, it's the cloud. For neurodivergence, it's the people that tell us that we should act in a neurotypical fashion. The cloud cannot offer what the mainframe does, and neurotypical cannot offer what neurodivergent does, and vice versa. Switching those symptoms compromises our integrity, but learning to work together strengthens our core. Your industry is in a unique position right here and right now to dismantle the current structure and move forward together and stronger. But how? We need to look at compromise. The mainframe industry needs modernization. So does society. Neurodivergence and neurotypicals need to work together. In both examples, young people are driving the change, and it is remarkable. The next generation is bringing with it a whole new set of values, a different approach to our current society, new ways to solve old problems, and with that comes new asks, new responsibilities, and different requirements from us. In my generation, people who functioned as I do were mostly undiagnosed or underdiagnosed. When I was a kid, autism looked like a little white boy who lined up trains and didn't talk. Tests were basically normed on this population, which means that a wider variety of people were missed out, including females and those of us who need less support. But you know what's happening? Us dinosaurs who masked our way through life are being replaced by a younger generation that is, by and large, loud and proud. Our children are more often diagnosed than we were, and they are driving the change in services. They're driving the change in the workforce, too. The mainframe industry has always had neurodivergent minds, I can promise you that. Some of you might just be finding this out now. Maybe you're getting diagnosed at 50 years old with ADHD, or you're 60 and you just found out that you're autistic. Within the mainframe, the younger generation knows their value and they know what they can uniquely bring to the industry. They're driving the change. And you know what's so great about this? You're in the unique position to be change makers in this industry. Linux, the Open Mainframe Project, Share, these organizations are all adapting to support one another, which means that the IT ecosystem is evolving. Neurodiverse people are adapting and working together to support change and foster innovation. Through understanding and inclusion, we can transform. Neurodivergence and the mainframe have worked hand in hand for a long time, but without talking about it. The DEI world is incorporating women and people of color, but what about neurodiversity? The next generation is asking for diversity of thought, gender, race, ethnicity, and neurology, and your industry offers that. You've begun the conversation, and now it's time to actually do the work. It's time to realize that neurodivergency drives innovation, creative problem solving, and original work. Shift your mind from thinking that the weird people should be left out. They might actually hold the solutions to the problems you face. Our ability to ask different types of questions and looking at problems in a different light is actually an asset. As an industry, you need to look at some tough facts. You need to look at why you have neurodivergent minds that are missing promotions or that are leaving the industry. Is it an unconscious bias? A miscommunication? What's being done to welcome, recruit, and retain this community? Without change, we see problems. We see increases of quiet quitting, we see burnout, we see difficulty with retention, and we see inability to attract the needed talent. The mainframe industry will always have neurodivergent minds. You need the minds that are centrally focused, enjoy solving unique problems, and can think quickly under pressure. You need youth that are outspoken and willing to talk about this. And you need neurotypical supporters who celebrate our differences and are open to learning how to work together. That's the true concept of neurodiversity, that coming together of both divergent and typical minds. In a way, it's not unlike the hybrid mainframe cloud structures. Together, we're stronger, we get more done, and we have a better bottom line. Neither of us needs to replace what we are or what we have. We need to make what we have workable and viable for the long haul. Neurodivergents need a wide spectrum of understanding. We need to talk about the elephant, or dare I say dinosaur, in the room. We need to let the next generation know that this space rocks. It's inclusive and open and diverse, and it's built on all different kinds of minds. No more hiding. It's time for the mainframe to step into the modern age and to develop a hybridization of diversity and inclusion. Rather than quiet quitting, let's focus on loud retention. Let's actively, willingly, and transparently change the perception of the mainframe. You need to actively recruit neurodivergent workers and work to retain them. To do this, you need to implement universal design principles by making products, environments, and operational systems simple, flexible, and efficient so that they're welcoming to the widest network and most diverse range of people possible. I have 3 points that can help you get there. First of all, assess your workplace. What are the known issues? Who's in your workforce? What special needs do they have? What special talents do they have? What's currently being done? What is working and what is not working? 2, use this assessment to drive change. Learn how to implement universal design. Include neurodiversity into your DEI practices. Restructure the corporate ladder into a corporate tree. Once you've done this, give an honest evaluation of your changes. Is what you've done making a difference? If not, ask more pointed questions and cycle through the process again and again and again. Some of us, like myself, may never be diagnosed. Maybe we don't see the value in it, or we don't see ourselves as neurodivergent. And that's fine. We don't need to be neurodivergent to be able to talk about it, to feel in alignment with neurodivergent traits, or to be a champion of change for those that are actually identified. But we do need to be able to talk about it. We need an environment that welcomes us. We need to be curious about human behavior, whether or not it comes with a label. Think outside of the label. Focus on abilities and needs. You don't have to go out and get a diagnosis to know that you don't like background noise. You don't have to be autistic to get accommodations. Change is uncomfortable and it does not happen overnight, but it is possible. I envision a world where we don't need a diagnosis to own our personality, where we can be comfortable being who we are, knowing that our environment supports us, and knowing that universal design is there to help us. In closing, I'm going to share a quote by Frank Zappa. He said, "Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible." Thank you.